Hello, and welcome to the Three Peaks podcast,
where we take a break from the hype of life
and appreciate the view. Today, we have a very special guest, Mandy Doman. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to have a conversation with you all and share really anything you would like to know about me and the journey along the way. It's been very interesting.
All right. So we're going to give you a quick moment to introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a little bit more about you, your career, and some of your hobbies.
Oh, I would love to. So first of all, for me personally, I've been on a very interesting self-development journey most of my life. And I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm the chief operating officer of an international company. And some of my hobbies, I actually love self-development. So I consider that a hobby. My morning routine is something that's very important to me. I love to wake up bright and early. I'm typically up naturally between 4:30 and 5. Wow. And during that time, it's just a moment of solitude for me where I can do my own reflection on how things are going, where I might need to pivot, how aligned am I, and what do I envision for my future in a lot of different facets of life. So I feel like I'm constantly trying to grow and evolve and become a better version of myself. So journaling, meditating, reading inspirational books, learning, of course, that's a big part of it. I love yoga and, more cardio exercises, walks with my dog. And just, I would say I'm a homebody a bit. I love just time with my friends and family. I love traveling and so that's, I would say, a quick snapshot on me and my life. I'm also a homeschool mom. So I do homeschool our youngest son, and I also homeschooled our middle child as well, who's now in his early 20s. So that's a great way to keep my skills refreshed on, 5th grade math, for example, or, different things like that too.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you do journaling and meditating and all of that stuff. And so my question to you is, how much have you changed, or I guess grown, after getting all those habits into your life?
Yeah, such a good question. Well, part of it is we all have experiences in our lives that impact us, that can be painful, that can cause us to have perceptions of ourselves that just really isn't very true, but we think it's true because we think we have evidence that supports that narrative. And so if you take that time to meditate, connect to whatever your source, the higher version of yourself, the higher meaning of life, if you connect to that, it just helps to break through the mold that you tend to place yourself in and allow yourself to see a different version of who you might become. So for me, it was a really important healing journey. My childhood was very traumatic. By the time I was 14, my father went to jail. We lost our home. We lost our cars. We lost our friendships. So my world came literally crashing down on my head after having a lot of other troubling experiences in my life. And that set up for me certain beliefs that I've really had to overcome. But at the same time, even though it was a really hard and challenging time, I always remember feeling like the word is deserve, and not that I'm entitled or that I should just be given things, but I envisioned what I felt like I deserved as a human, as an adult. And it helped me to create and frame a way of being, of interacting with other people and working really hard. So I definitely developed a strong work ethic early on in my life. So even though there were a lot of challenging things that right now can even still hurt to think about, I just found that I could dive into something that mattered and something that I could feel successful at. And even in those early days, I wasn't doing a full morning routine the way I am now, but I did journal, and it helped me to problem solve and think and reflect. So I just think it's an important thing for anybody who is looking for a different answer than what their minds, their brains are telling them. Because, the fact is the ego can set us up to think certain things that just aren't true.
Mhm. And with picking up new hobbies and trying to just do better in life, it's kind of hard for people to stay motivated. So my question to you is how do you stay motivated after like everything that's happened to you in your life?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that the feeling of like having a reason or a purpose or a vision, and then taking small actions towards it every day. And the thing I always tell my kids too is that you don't just show up confident. That's just not how it works. And confidence is competence that's built over time. And so if you care about something and you really feel like that's what you want to experience or that's how you want to be, it helps you to find that motivation each day to show up. In fact, my husband and I just finished, well, I can't say I did. He finished 75 hard, and I'll explain what that is. And I can't say that I did it because I modified what that program is, but essentially for 75 days, it is 2 45-minute workouts every day. One of them has to be outside. It's reading 10 pages of a self-development or educational book. It is writing in a journal, following a diet. For me, it was no sugar and, a few other things. And the reason I say that I didn't follow it through is that I don't like being in the cold. So it was winter when we went and did that. And I just chose not to do my second 45-minute workout outside. And they said, like, if you modify any of these habits, any of the routines, you're not going to reap the rewards. And I thought to myself, well, it feels right to me. I just don't want to go outside. And so I compare, now that we're finished, my husband Alex's outcomes compared to mine are significantly different. So I guess my learning is that if you say you're going to do something and you do follow through with it and you stay motivated, those rewards are so powerful. But so I would just say it's setting yourself up for success, planning the night before. I always laid out my workout clothes the night before. I had my morning routine all set up on the couch or wherever I was going to be. I made coffee for myself the night before. So I tried to how do I plan for success and prevent failure? If everything's ready to go, how am I just going to walk by it and say, I don't feel like it today? So I think it's just setting yourself up for those habits to actually take place, and then it becomes easier over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my questions I'd like to ask to you is, with waking up every morning and just setting yourself in a good mindset for the rest of the day, how do you find ways to get yourself in the mood, just to think today's going to be a great day, I'm going to do so many good things? And
yeah, a lot of it is the night before. So, I'm a big planner. I have a routine where I plan my day the night before so that I already have it set up in my mind that I'm going to work out at a certain time. And I have my day pretty much pre-scheduled the evening before, and it's modified. I'm not, sometimes things just happen. So I do maintain that flexibility, but just being able to also recognize that everyone feels tired in the morning. It's biological. That's how we feel. And I was reading a book called Miracle Morning, and he breaks it down to exactly what actually happens physiologically as you're starting to wake up. And he actually has these different stages. So it's if you set your mind to the time you want to wake up, eventually you don't even need an alarm clock. That's one thing that he said would happen. And for me, that's true. And then the other thing is that you wake up, you feel groggy, you immediately just get out of bed. You don't hit your snooze button, you just move your body. If you like to have something that you enjoy, for me, I like to have coffee. So then I get myself a cup of coffee. And then over about, I don't know, probably a 5 to 10 minute period, I'm out of that really tired, groggy, I want to crawl back in bed place into an inspired, ready to go, motivated place. So it's recognizing that you can push through it if you want to.
Right. And when you were talking about kind of like you have a schedule of your own and following that kind of like helps you stay motivated. So my question to you is how important would you say it is for people to have an everyday schedule?
I think it's very important. You know, I've been studying this a lot through the last 75 days in particular, but even before that, I love audiobooks and listening to influential people who have made, you know, a lot of really incredible moves in their life and they have impact. They're helping other people. Like what you're doing, I don't know anyone your age that's doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so it takes commitment to saying, well, what is it going to look like? Then figuring out, well, when do I do it? And then taking it step back where you actually put it in your calendar or somehow whatever you're tracking it. And then having a momentum. You know, I think there was a book that I read that said something about how, you know, if you imagine a water pump back in the day, it takes so much effort to like actually start pumping and the water doesn't come, water doesn't come, water doesn't come. But if you just keep the momentum going, eventually it flows. And if you just, then it doesn't take as much effort. But as soon as you stop, then you have to go through that whole process all over again. So it's developing the daily routines, coming up with the habits that serve you, figuring out where you need to grow, and realizing that we all were new at something at some point. We all had to figure out how to do anything. Like today, I'm doing research for, you know, music devices. I don't have any background in this. So I'm like, well, learning and trying to create, well, what is it that I need to figure out in order to determine what our company is going to be using to deliver our music on going forward. It's, you know, there's a lot that goes into it. And so it's just saying, okay, well, I don't know the answers, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to figure out who I need to ask for help, what I can Google. And so habits and the acceptance that it's just, you do and you do and you do.
Yeah. And you mentioned like you like reading books and all of that. So I was wondering, what is one book or a couple of books that you think the youth should read to like help them understand like why it's important to read and meditate and have an everyday schedule?
My favorite book that I try to read at least once a year is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And his story is pretty remarkable. He had, you know, he was at the top of his career as a young, I think he was like in his 19 or 20. And he had this car accident and he nearly died. And he went through this process where he was severely depressed and he started thinking, well, I want to start feeling better. And he started thinking, well, when can I do all the things that I want to do? And he recognized that it was the morning. The morning was really the only time that was consistent for him to do all of his things. And so this book to me explains, well, why is journaling important? Why is exercise first thing in the morning such a crucial time to do it? He even talks about affirmations, how to do them and why they impact your thinking skills. So he basically goes through a very specific formula that I still follow. I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years now, but it's called SAVERS. So it's S is, I think S is scribe, A is affirmation, V is visualizing, E is for exercise, R is read, and then S is, I'm forgetting what the second S is. So anyway, you can look at the book and follow that routine as part of your day. And there's all sorts of apps and everything that you can do to even, you know, make it a bit more interesting. I like technology quite a bit, so I try to incorporate that as much as I can. But that's my favorite book.
Yeah. Speaking of technology, you work for Advanced Brain Technologies, and we were wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what the job entails and like more about the company you work for.
Yes. So my husband is Alex Doman. He's the founder of Advanced Brain Technologies. So Alex is a third generation in a family of neurodevelopmentalists. So they really understand the brain and the body and how to impact human performance for people of all ages. And Alex discovered the role of our auditory system to stimulate the brain that can make new connections so that we can think more quickly, communicate better. It even affects our physical mobility. There's a lot that happens when you can provide the brain with the right kind of stimulation. And so for me, it's especially, I love that I'm part of this because I have a pretty significant hearing loss. And I also have tinnitus, which is basically my ears ring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If I'm sick, it sounds like they're screaming. It's pretty obnoxious. And so I use our technologies. It's a music listening therapy each day in order to help improve how my brain is processing information and improve my speech. It used to be that when I was anxious, if I ever had to speak, I would get so nervous. I actually would just stumble over my words. I wouldn't find the right words. And so I pretty much was someone that would just smile politely and I really wouldn't talk. I was very quiet and very shy when I was younger. And so after some time of using this, it's just transformed how I think about myself and my own ability to communicate. It's been really amazing. So now my role is I'm the Chief Operating Officer, and we have an international team of technologists and marketing teams. And then of course we have our sales department. And so my role is really just to oversee everything, help answer questions, problem solve, make sure we're all aligned and rowing together and growing together. And of course, working with the families and the practitioners. So in addition to our music, we also do training courses and education for professionals so that they can use it to help kids and adults. And so it's been really an amazing company. It's a passion of mine. I think of advanced brain technologies almost as like how I would think about a child of mine. Like I just love it so much and I want it to succeed just as I do with, people I love in my own life. So I feel very blessed to be able to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And with being in a part of this company, there has to be a lot of leadership that comes along with the job. And a lot of people find it really difficult or sometimes troublesome to be a leader. So what type of advice would you give to someone who wants to become a better leader?
Yeah, I can think of, I definitely, for a long time, it scared me to even think about being in that role because it's a responsibility. The way that I look at it is that I'm serving them. I am here to, really set them up for success. The more you can communicate by primarily being a good listener, making sure that there's a lot of clarity around different roles, projects, needs, so that you feel like there's a cohesive nature and it's a collaborative nature rather than, I'm imposing something on somebody. I feel like if I've done my job in providing clarity, clear deadlines and overview, and also again, relying on technology. There's a lot of programs that I can take advantage of that helps me to delegate different projects in a very easy way and sets people up for success. So it's just, I think, all about ensuring that you're empowering them, making sure that if they're not performing well, that you don't automatically just assume, oh, this is somebody who is lazy or they don't care. Or I always try to imagine what are some of the reasons that this might be happening? And then having a conversation. I think that open collaboration is so important. And there are certainly times where things don't go well. And there are times where I don't feel satisfied by what someone is providing, and having those crucial conversations are part of the job. And I used to be very worried or anxious about having them, but now I recognize that this is an opportunity for them to grow, for me to grow, and you got to do it sometimes, even though it isn't fun.
Yeah. All right. So for our final question, on the podcast, it's usually known as the big question. You ready?
Yes.
So our big question to you is, what advice would you give to the people of younger generations?
That's a great one. My advice is to develop competence in something that brings you so much joy. And you don't maybe even know what it's going to be right now, but just to consider, where do you feel that you're contributing the most? What lights you up? And what are the things that you could do to expand on that? It's kind of like if you imagine a tornado, and if you've got this one big idea in the middle and it starts to spin and get bigger and bigger as you collect more data, and then your mind starts to expand, ideas start to spur. So just figure out what sparks you and go for it. And I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised at what you're able to accomplish.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And we just want to say thank you for taking the time to meet with us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Oh, I feel the same. Thank you so much. And I just wish you guys lots of success. Keep doing this. I think it's such a great passion project. And I know certainly it will make an impact in so many people's lives.
All right. That's all we have for you guys on the Three Peaks podcast. We'll see you guys on the trail next time.